What is up, everybody? I'm No Lex Given, back with more Demon Bluff daily puzzles from the official Discord created by DatLad11. And we're going to kick this video off with puzzle 103. Today's village has pairs of knights and slayers, but is otherwise completely normal. And I'm not sure whether or not to take that at face value, but DatLad did say that this would be a good potential warm-up for a sequel video, so maybe it is a completely normal puzzle that we are dealing with here. We can see this pair of knights and slayers like the puzzle info suggested. And what else do we have here? We have a druid that says among 4, 5, and 6, there are no outcasts. So that kind of implies that these knights aren't doppelgangers. And we also have a plague doctor here. There's only supposed to be one outcast on this village. The plague doctor is interestingly saying that this druid is not corrupted. So that tends to point at this plague doctor being real, though it could mean that this plague doctor is like the poisoner poisoning the druid, and then this druid actually is corrupted and there is an outcast right here because this plague doctor is a big old phony. Trying to figure out which evils we have first is kind of, step one of the puzzle. I do see that we have a puppeteer on this puzzle because there's only supposed to be 2 minions plus 1 demon, and the fact that we are seeing 4 right here means that a puppet was created. Now, I believe there's a lot of weird mechanics that you have to figure out when you're doing these puzzles, as the last video can attest to. But what are some things that we at least think that we know about the puppet? Well, I think that the puppeteer will make the puppet affected by an evil. So this could be the puppeteer, this could be the puppet, but the puppet will always tell the truth. And left side being more evil, if we think that this is the puppet and the puppeteer, that's impossible. Well, no, it's possible. If this is the puppeteer, the puppet, the poisoner, and then we had an evil over here, but we could not have a demon over here. So that's going to be impossible. I don't believe that a puppet can ever be in a double claim with a villager. We also have a pair of slayers that both could not kill. This slayer tried to kill number 2. This slayer tried to kill number 4. That definitely doesn't bode extremely well for the slayers. And one other thing that I believe is true is that a demon. So if we potentially have a puka, and I'm not sure how long I'm going to try at this puzzle blind mode because there's just so many different things that are possible here. Like we could have a shaman, we could have a poisoner, we could have a counselor, and then we could also have a puka. It just feels like that's a lot for me to process. Maybe let's take a look at the rest of this information. We really started looking at the druid and then got totally off track here. So this witness saying that number 3 was created by an evil means that this is never the puppeteer creating a puppet. How can things be affected by an evil on this board? Well, number 3 could be poisoned, or number 3 could just be the puppet. Let's keep processing some information here because this Empress information is actually potentially the most important info on the board, and we want to start to consider it, I suppose. 1 is evil between 6, 7, and 9. When an Empress says something like this, they are either telling the truth and one of these 3 is evil, which I think almost has to be. Oh, except I do not like that this slayer shot back at this Empress. Because this Empress, if this Empress is evil, I guess the slayer could have killed it. Okay. Sure. I mean, to start off with the puzzle, I'm trying to figure out if I can just go ahead and stab the knights. The fact that this Plague Doctor exists on the board, it is of course a little bit spooky. But what I was going to say, I got a little bit taken away here, is that the Empress might be evil. Or one of the cards in its information are evil. But maximum one of these four is evil. And that does seem like a big piece of this puzzle. It's kind of going under the assumption that both knights are good and we could have like a doppelganger and was trying to work back from there. I do fear there's a little too many pieces of evil. Oh, this Empress would be a good puppet. There actually can be two evils between the Empress and the cards that it's talking about, because this Empress could make a pretty good puppet. The reason I say that is because I feel like this Architect could actually make a great puppeteer. If we want to take it at face value that this set does not contain any outcasts, it could still mean that they are Plague Doctor corrupted. But if we see no outcasts here, and this is not corrupted, what if we just try to start solving based off this being true, based off there certainly being some Plague Doctor corruption somewhere? We assume that this is true. And maybe this is a pretty good puppet, because this feels like a pretty good puppeteer to me. Just because then that means the right side is more evil, it puts two evils on the right, and that just makes a lot of sense to me. Now, this could still be true, that one of these two are evil. I mean, I don't really see why we couldn't just say, okay, yeah, sure, the knight is evil. I guess here is why we would have to say that. Okay, if this Plague Doctor is real, unless we have a Chancellor, which I could check for in just a moment to see what this other minion is and open up a lot of possibilities. Assuming this is a minion, this would then have to be our demon. And this could be like the, I guess it's just the Ba at that point, right? And the reason that I say that I want this to be the Ba is because the Ba is not going to be in a double claim unless it's with a drunk. Now, what if you have like... Oh, right, because these Slayers could not kill 2 and 4. So here's a crazier solution. Well, I like this idea because number 3 is currently not affected by an evil. So... yeah, the only other thing that I was thinking is like, what if this is a Chancellor, made this Slayer into the drunk? Meaning that this other Slayer can actually be the demon, since the demon is allowed to double claim the drunk. That would explain why both of these Slayers were not able to use their abilities on things that are like somewhat evil. 2 obviously doesn't wind up being evil in the end here. Before I stab the knights, I think I need to look at what evils are potentially in this puzzle. And while I do like blind mode Demon Bluff, I'm maybe a little bit out of practice if we're being honest, but also I think that these puzzles being like a step up makes it just that much harder to try to do blind mode on them. Normally when you're doing blind mode, you're like, okay, well there's a witch and there's a Lilith game and, there's an oracle outing one of the minions, things that make it a little bit easier so that you don't really have to do the blind mode aspect of it. But I think without any extra information here, I'm going to click on the deck list spoiler. It's just going to speed up the processing time for this video, but I think I did come up with some interesting ideas to get us started here, and I'm just a little overwhelmed with possibilities. We do indeed have a Puka. That is very important. It didn't feel like we had a Ba, and we don't. Now, we do also have a Chancellor, and that is huge information, because with a Chancellor, we do have a doppelganger. So between these two knights, and I'm just going to undo most of this real quick, except for that, because we know that we have a doppelganger either here or here. And we'll figure that out later, but we also know that we have a Plague Doctor, which means one is not corrupted, which means there is no doppelganger right here, which means this has to be our doppelganger. There's actually no other way around that at this point. Nice. Okay. These have to contain our doppelgangers, which means we actually have to have a lot of evils among this group, right? Among these 5 is our O. And actually, this might have to be the Chancellor. Nothing else can be the Chancellor. Yes, this is the Chancellor. It has created the doppelganger right here. And this is a villager. This is the doppelganger. There's no other way around that. So if this could not kill 4 and this could not kill 2, there is a chance that the Plague Doctor hit this Slayer, meaning that 2 could still be evil. I definitely want to explore that. We also know now that this Empress somehow just straight up has correct information by pointing at this knight. I'm ready to kill this knight, by the way. I am fairly confident in my logic that no outcasts among here means that the doppelganger has to sit here, which means the counselor has to sit here. Wait a minute, that's not true. This could be the counselor creating the Plague Doctor. This isn't corrupted. It is just lying. Oh no. Okay, that's gonna undo a lot of my work here. If we assume then that there is a doppelganger among these, that would mean that both of these knights are good. This could be the Puka. This can never be the Puka. I think that 6 is a fine stab, because 6 is either a knight that isn't corrupted. Oh, unless this is the Puka, and this is... No, that's not possible. This can't be the Puka. What I was thinking is like, okay, what if this was the Puka? This still has to be the Chancellor creating the Plague Doctor for the doppelganger to sit right here. But then this Slayer can't be in the double claim with the Puka. So I think that this knight is always safe to kill. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think I've convinced myself of that. So we are going to start by stabbing number 6 and learning that that is a knight, which is really good info. That means that we've stabbed a knight and it is definitely good. I will need to redraw that later because I've got a bunch of other stuff that doesn't seem as true anymore. Well, we know this isn't true. We know this is no longer the Chancellor corrupting the Slayer, so let's undo a little bit of this here. Actually, let's undo most of it. Yeah, and mark down that this is 100% confirmed to be a knight at this point. So this could be the doppelganger making this evil, which would mean that the Plague Doctor is just correct. I think I like that assumption for now. Let's say this is the doppelganger, which means it also can... Wait. Did I just get more information than I should have? That's curious. Because if this was a real knight, it's not the doppelganger. Yeah, I might have gotten more information than I could have, because now that means that either this knight is a doppelganger or it is evil, right? But it's never a corrupted knight, because specifically a doppelganger cannot get corrupted by the Puka. I do think it's the doppelganger, but I will try to push that out of my head and find another solve where that isn't the case. This Empress is now in a direct counterclaim with this Slayer. One of these two is evil. At least. This could still be the puppet. Oh, and this Slayer's also tried to kill the Empress, which means this Empress is never evil. If this Empress was evil, this Slayer, well, wait a minute. If this Empress was evil and this Slayer was good, this Slayer would have killed this Empress. The fact that they did not kind of implies the Empress is evil, or we actually have our puppet and our puppeteer. That seems quite likely to me. That would make this our Chancellor, though, sat next to nothing. This cannot be a Chancellor sat next to nothing, so... I was thinking like, okay, what if... No, we know this is not the Puka. I mean, like, I was thinking for a second, what if this is the Puka, this is the Chancellor, created the Plague Doctor, this is the Plague Doctor corruption, this then wouldn't work. So... it's not that. Maybe this Empress, I mean, I'm willing to just say maybe this Empress that has reasonable information is just a good guy. That also feels very possible. If either of these are the Chancellor, it has to be... Yeah, what I think I'm getting at here is this Knight is probably just evil. It feels like both of these Slayers do have to be doppelganger created. Just because where else are you potentially fitting a Chancellor other than right here? Maybe that's not true. Maybe this one could be a Chancellor. If this one's a Chancellor creating the Plague Doctor, then two could be evil. We think this is evil because it's not corrupted. This can't be the puppet. Oh, ooh. Wait a minute. I think I just did it. Puka. I think I did say this would be a good potential Puka target. Wait, this Puka... Oh, it's just not corrupting the Knight. But it is corrupting this, making this information true. Because this is our puppet. This is the puppeteer. Lying. This is the Counselor. Could not kill number 2. This then specifically is left to be our Plague Doctor corruption. And the fact that I tried to stab this Knight was very bad because this Knight could have just as easily been Plague Doctor corrupted. It seemed like there was too much misinformation on the board. But this is real. This is a minion in a double claim. So that works. This is giving us correct information. This is giving us incorrect information. Let me just double check that all information here is as it should be with the 4 evils that we have, right? And we're saying this is good but corrupted. This is good but not corrupted because it's actually the doppelganger, which makes this information wrong. That's what we're going with. So, Plague Doctor says that 1 is not corrupted. Okay. That checks out because we have our 1 Plague Doctor corruption. This Druid saying that there's no outcasts among these 3 is incorrect, which is correct because this is our puppeteer. Here's the strings, the marionette strings. This is our puppet, giving us correct information that number 3 was affected by an evil. Looks good. This number 3 is Puka poisoned, telling us that the left side is more evil, and that is correctly incorrect. Good. Then we have this Puka, which cannot corrupt this doppelganger. So in order for this all to make sense, we actually do get to stab this doppelganger knight that we should not have information on seat 5. And it might tell us doppelganger here, which is potentially a little bit more than we bargained for, but we're ready to solve. And I'm going to trust that DatLad has set this up correctly here. Doppelganger. Okay, so we should maybe just be like able to learn like knight, you did not kill them there. And that would be a piece of feedback that I have for DatLad, but it does mean that we do have the rest of the solution. 4 is our Puka, and what do we have? 1 and 2 are our puppeteer and puppet, and number 8 is our chancellor. There we go. That was definitely tricky without the deck list, but once we knew that we had a chancellor and a doppelganger, I was kind of leaning there, but the Puka, that one definitely leaves like a lot to be considered still. But after we had the deck list, we were able to get it done. And then just to double check this as well, we should learn that 3 is a corrupted architect and 7 is a corrupted slayer because of the plague doctor, and that just leaves our plague doctor in seat 9. Next, we're going to look at puzzle 107, which says today's village is about outcasts and why sticking 4 of them into a single village is a destructive idea. Now, if we look at this puzzle, there are only 3 outcasts. However, I'm kind of getting the implication from that we also have a chancellor in this puzzle. So I think that it's fair to operate under that assumption, and that both of these empresses are good because one's our doppelganger, and then we also have a drunk sat somewhere. Now, this does limit slightly I was going to say it limits the places that a chancellor can be, but the chancellor could have always created a drunk anywhere. So I think that means that the evil team can literally be anywhere with all of this information. Left side being more evil with a wretch over on the right is kind of interesting. You know what? Well, there's a lot of places to start. I like starting with the Empress information in general, but what if we start with this bishop's information? Because I'm sure this bishop is pointing at an outcast, right? No, not necessarily. They could certainly be the drunk. This could be the real Empress, and this could be the doppelganger. Now, if this is the doppelganger, that means that this information is correct. If this is the doppelganger, it means that this information is correct. Oh, and this is saying real bishop. Number 2 could be the chancellor. Okay, I'm taking in all of this information at once now. 3 or 10 contains an evil. I buy that. Ooh, here is something that I do actually think is true. This knight can never be corrupted. Because this can't be a poisoner, this can't be a poisoner. These both, this could be a villager, or it could be an outcast, but it could never be a minion. So it could never be a demon, never be a minion, can't be a poisoner, nor a puka. So this knight is actually a totally safe initial stab. I'm going to start there. Let's hop back over onto the Discord. I'm not going to click the deck list just yet, because no matter what, if we have a chancellor, which I am going to operate under that assumption, then this knight is always good. That's seat 10, correct? Yes. Okay. That is indeed a knight. Good to know. Good to know. Let's mark that down with our is a knight indicator. where are we at here? Gotta do this. Cool. This is a knight. Those are horrible lines, but we're good. We're good there. We're also good with this bombardier, this wretch, but I will put a little... Let me just put like this on top of the wretch. No, that's kind of hard to miss, or easy to miss. Let me just do this. Just so that way I don't forget about it later. We know that this Empress is good. We know that this Empress is good. That doesn't mean that they have good information, but they are indeed our outcast or villager connected to the doppelganger. So what about this fortune teller? What about this fortune teller talking about 3 or 10? And the bishop is talking about the fortune teller. It's also talking about 10, which at this point, oh, number 10 could have been our drunk. Okay, whoops. Well, what can we do about it now? Nothing. It does seem, though, that this has to be our villager. So let's mark that down. And then this being our outcast and this being our minion all does make sense, but it could just be that these are all 3 villagers. That is also totally possible, and 3 is evil because 6 says it is. Yeah, 3 and 6 definitely just in a counterclaim with each other. We do see that this bishop is also, or the medium rather, is also pointing at the bishop. I might want to unpack this. Actually, I don't know that I care, because the dreamer telling me that this is the chancellor doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. I think I'm ready to reveal the deck list, though. I think I would like to know what the second minion is and what the demon is right now. We do indeed have the chancellor. We see that all potential outcasts are options here, and then twin minion is the final thing that we have to sort out. And that is totally fine with me. I really don't care about the twin minion and the Ba. It's just good to know that that's what we're dealing with, right? Now, could have a drunk somewhere. Okay. It could be left side more evil. Let me just write out this, and then we'll check this against the Empress information. What if this is, what if this is the Chancellor? I kind of have some reason to believe that 2 will be evil, because that's the only reason that we can actually get info on the Dreamer. So what if that is the Chancellor? This is the minion. This is the Ba, right? Or either way, making this the drunk. Wait, no, this can't be the drunk. This is the doppelganger. This is just correct. Oh, and then we don't have a drunk, actually. Huh. So, I mean, right now this medium is just right. It does seem like this dreamer could be lying and be the Chancellor. Oh, and that would make sense. This is actually the minion because there's no outcasts on either side of it. Wait, so then where's the drunk? Oh, now I don't have a drunk. Okay. We have to place the drunk somewhere. Probably. I kind of wanted to just undo that D because that was drawn pretty terribly. Okay. That's probably not the evil team that simply. The left side being more evil. I don't know. The left side could certainly be more evil. Or it's just equal. I think that's like the easiest way to sort out that as well. So I think one thing that we also have not done yet is look at these empresses at all. So this empress is saying, and we're going to get two different color schemes here. Let's use purple for this empress. This empress is saying 5. Oh, it's saying its fellow empress? That's weird. And then it is saying 8, 9. Oh, well, that definitely is pointing at number 8 then, because it can't be pointing at 5. Okay. This empress, on the other hand, is saying 3, 6, 9, which is fine, because between 3 and 6, there's like multiple ways that both of these two have to be evil. So let's just, let's do this and indicate that there is an evil between these two. This empress can't be corrupted either. There is no corruption. The empresses can't be drunks. We need to have a drunk and a doppelganger because we have 4 outcasts. Is there any weird way? Like, there's no way. I will say, like, on the last puzzle, I was like, oh, Datlad is lying about this being a totally normal village. And, oh, that's what I saw. I saw that on this poet one, today's village is quite normal if you think about it. So, like, I don't think I should assume that I am being lied to by the puzzle creator and that there are actually 4 outcasts here, because the only other thing that I wanted to at least consider is, like, is there a way for a chancellor to sit in between 2 outcasts and then is unable to create a third one? I don't think I've ever seen a chancellor fail to make an outcast, though. I don't believe that that's possible. I think that that must happen super early during the setup process. Of course, the puppet can fail, but I don't believe that a chancellor can. So we are going to assume that there's 4 outcasts, which means there has to be a doppelganger and there has to be a drunk. If there's a doppelganger, both empresses are good. So this empress pointing at the other empress and pointing at the bombardier is either saying that this empress is corrupted or this dreamer is evil. But this empress can never be corrupted because it cannot be the drunk. So this dreamer, I think, is actually where we're starting. I think I'm stabbing number 8, and they could just as easily be the Chancellor or the Ba. I don't think it's really going to matter where everyone is placed, but that is the Dreamer in seat 8, and that is our Ba, indeed. Okay, so we've killed 1. Let's knock out the Dreamer here, which means we've satisfied this information. And 3, 6 are both in this other Empress's information. Let's wait, and an Empress can never be corrupted. We've already said that. So if this Empress can never be corrupted, it is just between these two. And because these two are pointing at each other, they never contain the drunk, right? Which means between these two, let me just double check that. They never contain the drunk. Yes, because this is saying this is evil, and this is saying that this is evil. So this is either the doppelganger or the villager. It doesn't matter. But, like, we can figure it out. So what that means is that between the medium and the architect, we have a drunk and we have the minion, right? Yeah, these two pointing at each other means that one is just good and one is, we'll say, the Chancellor. Doesn't really matter. That means that between these two, there's a drunk and a minion, which means both of their pieces of information are wrong. So now we have to solve for both of their informations being wrong, which means this is not the bishop. This is the fortune teller. But we still don't know if this is the drunk or if this is the architect, and we can figure that out potentially with the architect's information. If the left side is more evil, well, let's say if this architect is evil, then the right side is more evil. If this is evil, then both sides are equally evil. It would be 2 and 2. This could be a 50-50. Datlad did say that there are some 50-50s within these puzzles. I'm trying to make sure. Are there any other pieces of information that we're leaving on the table? I don't believe so. The idea that those two remaining things have to be the drunk and the minion is very cool, though. I do like that. And that means I'm ready to kill the bishop regardless. So let's go do that. Bishop is in seat 3. That's our chancellor, which checks out. There's a wretch next to them. That's all that we really have to solve for in that capacity. It means that the fortune teller is correct. I think I'll stab the architect first. But I'm just trying to do a double check here. I almost wish that it said... I wish that it said the right side is more evil. If it said the right side is more evil, then we would know that that needed to be wrong, so this couldn't be evil and would have to be the drunk. But as is, I don't think that there's actually a way to discern about all of this. We're going to stab 2, and then we are going to stab 7, and we are going to find the drunk, and we are going to find the twin minion. And maybe there was a different way that gets you to the same end result. I don't know. I don't see it though, but I do think that that was still a fun puzzle. I'm going to cut this video here actually because I think this is a good runtime for the video, but I have recorded more of these daily puzzles, including puzzle number 104, which is all of these poets. So some sweet content still to come. Subscribe if you want to see some more daily Datlad villages, and let me know in the comments which villages you want to see and any other Demon Bluff content you want to see. But for today, that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Luck Skiven. Peace.